When the first ice biomes were discovered, it seemed unlikely that anything inhabited these barren tundras. The freezing cold and rough terrain makes this land beautiful, yet dangerous. However, above all, the polar bear survives. As the apex predator of these lands, the polar bear is able to raise her cubs, nourishing them with the fish that fill the wide ocean. However, life isn't always easy. This player is searching for XP and food, with it stumbling upon a polar bear. Usually, he would avoid situations like these, but he's becoming desperate. This doesn't mean the player is not ready for a confrontation against anything. The player knows that hesitation will waste time, so he springs into action. The mother jumps to the defense of her cub, knowing it will be hopeless against the player. The player is able to gain a hit on the mother, but the mother hits back even harder. The player falls to the paws of the polar bear. She is victorious. As small and defenseless as the cub is, it once was much smaller than it is. It once being the size of one cell at the very beginning of its existence. Like most organisms, the development of a polar bear starts when the sperm cell of the father, having 32 chromosomes, meets the egg cell of the mother, having 32 chromosomes of its own. This will become the zygote, with a combination of 72 chromosomes, with each chromosome having a random trait inherited from a random parent. From this tiny cell will grow a huge organism of 800 to 1,500 pounds, or the polar bear. Now, the only reason that this is possible is because of the zygote's special ability of being totipotent, or being able to grow into any type of cell, allowing it to become any cell necessary for a large organism and its organ system. With this, the zygote grows into a hollow ball of cells, called a blastocyst. Now, the blastocyst will then implant itself in the walls of the uterus to further development. However, before the implantation of the blastocyst, there is a large period of time where the blastocyst delays growth for about 4 months. This allows the mother to gain food and prepare a den for her cubs and herself. Along with that, the delay allows the cub to be born at the best time of the year, where survival is greater and the mother has the most energy. After those 4 months, the blastocyst will grow for its own 4 more months, as the embryo develops inside the blastocyst. During this period, the pluripotent cells of the embryo, pluripotent meaning that they can develop into any body cell, but are restricted, are used to differentiate and make the different organs and parts of the polar bear. These are known as stem cells, specifically embryonic stem cells. Eventually, the embryo will grow to a cub and be birthed by the mother in the den. Now that the cub is born, it will be raised by the mother until she believes the cub is ready to live on its own. Until then, the cub will grow by his cells dividing in a process called mitosis. In this process, a cell, or also known as a parent cell, goes through phases that will prepare itself to divide and eventually do so into two new daughter cells. In the phases before division, the cell doubles its organelles and chromosomes. They are eventually split into two sides of the cell, both the organelles and the chromosomes, for each new cell. The cub will eventually reach a huge size in adulthood, which is when it will stop growing. However, its cells will continue to divide and perform mitosis, as its cells will grow old and die, so they have to be replaced and repaired with new daughter cells. As mentioned previously, stem cells are used in development to differentiate and make the parts of the polar bear. These differentiated cells allow the polar bear to have different organs and parts in the entire organ system. For example, the cells of the polar bear's heart are different than the cells in its stomach or brain, as they serve different purposes and were differentiated back when the polar bear was developing.